Welcome to the show, folks. I'm your host, John DeBona, and I'm glad you're here. This is where we cut through the noise and break down the issues happening in our country. Today, we're diving into how Project 2025 threatens veterans' benefits, social programs, and privatizes healthcare, issues that hit millions of Americans hard. Let's get into it. We must resist Project 2025. Project 2025 is coming for the benefits and protections we fought decades to secure. We'll walk you through how this agenda affects veterans, those on Social Security, and your health care. But first, go ahead and subscribe to turnleftpack.org and check out our Resist Project 2025 reels. They're going to open your eyes. Joining me today is Ike McCorkle to break down Project 2025's destructive agenda for veterans' benefits, social programs, and healthcare. Let's dive in, starting with how this plan impacts veterans who've given their all for our country. Well, joining me today is Ike McCorkle to break down Project 2025's destructive agenda for veterans' benefits, social programs, and healthcare. Let's dive in, starting with how this plan impacts veterans who've given their all for our country. Ike, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, John.
Absolutely. Let's look into what Project 2025 is planning for veterans. This includes the dismantling of the Department of Veterans Affairs. What would that mean for veterans who depend on its services?
Well, I think we have to talk about what it would mean to their families as well. I think we have to talk about what it would mean for their stability, their mental, stability, after serving their country and oftentimes in hazardous environments and combat zones, and coming back and expecting their country to take care of them. Um, you can't emphasize, what it would mean to lose their access to the support network that they depend on in terms of their counselors, their primary care doctors, and privatizing veterans health care doesn't expand service. We have seen that when we privatize, healthcare systems, when we privatize different systems, that they become systems of profit and they don't serve the patient or the student that is actually there to learn or there to, be healthy and have their needs served. So we need patient oriented healthcare systems, and that's what the VA should remain, and that's what the funding should be allocated for, taking care of the needs of the veterans that have served our country.
So the VA provides benefits, healthcare, disability benefits, and housing loans to millions of veterans. And Project 2025 aims to slash these services, forcing veterans into the private market where they'll face higher costs and fewer specialized services for things like PTSD and combat-related injuries. Um,
Yeah, that's one of the best things our country did after World War II is stand up the GI Bill program to pay for veterans to get their education to then serve their communities. It started guaranteeing veterans access to guaranteed home loans. That were at a reasonable price, not price gouged and profiteered on by corporate entities. We've seen the mortgage market before, just in our own time during the 2008 financial crisis. Balloon, and it ballooned because it was taking advantage of borrowers, and so we need to make sure that it has sufficient protections in there. And one of those things is VA guaranteed loans for our veterans. They've earned that, and many veterans would be on the streets, homeless, and their families it would be as well if they didn't have access to that earned benefit.
let's talk about how privatizing veterans' health care would impact those living in rural areas or needing specialized care. Um, Veterans in rural areas are already struggling with limited healthcare options, and Project 2025 would make it worse by privatizing services and meaning that they'll wait longer and pay more for the care they used to get through the VA.
Right. And oftentimes, as we've seen, post pandemic, veterans programs like mobile veterans clinics that used to service areas like Fort Morgan out here in eastern Colorado in the 4th Congressional District, the funding for these programs has dried up and has not been, reallocated post pandemic. So, we definitely need to provide access to preventative health care to veterans in rural communities. And it's a shame that so many rural veteran health clinics and access has so much of it has evaporated over the last decade, especially post pandemic. So I think that Congress has a lot of work to do in a way of making sure that the Veterans Administration is fully funded to the tune that it can afford to stand up mobile health clinics that can visit every single county and every single rural American community in the United States. We owe that to our veterans.
We absolutely do. It certainly seems that taking away these benefits is a betrayal of the promises that we made to our veterans.
Absolutely. Our veterans, they enter the service, they sign the contract, they go to their basic training, and they oftentimes deploy for the country in service in the agreement with the United States that when they come home from that service that they'll be taken care of, and we cannot betray that promise. Privatizing our veterans health care for private profit and is absolutely a wholesale, um, you know, betrayal of our veterans, and we got to make sure that we honor their service by providing them with the access to the services that they need when they come home.
Indeed, this isn't just about budget cuts. It's about denying our veterans the care they've earned. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll dive into how Project 2025 targets the social safety nets like Social Security and Medicaid.
When I ran for Congress, we flipped more Trump voters blue than any other congressional race in the country. We did this by calling out the GOP's lies and speaking truth against their $1 million attack ads. I've now partnered with Turn Left, and we're taking the fight to the extremists like Marge the Trainwreck Green, Ted Cruz, and Josh Hawley, to name a few. And I'm asking each and every one of you all to donate $25 today to the group that is absolutely helping to send these jackaloons packing. It's time to speak truth to power and turn left.
Social Security and Medicaid are lifelines for millions of Americans, including veterans, seniors, and the disabled. Project 2025's cuts would leave them without the financial and healthcare support that they rely on, leading to more poverty, poorer health outcomes, and increased financial instability. Ike, Project 2025 is targeting programs like Social Security and Medicaid. What are the real consequences for average Americans if these programs are gutted?
Well, we've seen, the American economy force, 70 odd percent of our population into living paycheck to paycheck. And that's not a situation where you have a reserve in place to take care of emergency medical costs and needs. And, at a time of crisis in your life, when you're an elderly person and you fall and you break your hip, that's not the point in time in your life when you should be targeted financially or when you should be placed in a position where you're going to lose your home due to medical bills. Roughly 60% of bankruptcies annually are due directly to unpaid medical bills. And so, we have to evaluate the impact that this system is having on our elderly community, on our veterans community, and on Americans at large. Because in a time of need and crisis, that's when we should be supporting our fellow citizens, not kicking them out of their homes. And so, I think it's extremely important that we have folks going to Congress that are honest, that are going to vote to pass funding for the VA and for healthcare in our rural communities.
Indeed, veterans, seniors, low income families, and disabled Americans are especially vulnerable. These are the groups who need Social Security, Medicaid, and food assistance the most, and cutting these programs would disproportionately affect them. Which groups do you think are going to suffer the most from these cuts, Ike?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because, I think it's actually the groups that are impacted the most would suffer the most. And that means that, our veterans that have been severely wounded in combat in service of our country, that, have amputations, that, have limitations. Those are the folks that receive Social Security disability insurance payments. Those with, extensive brain injuries from their time in service in combat. Those are the folks, and more importantly, their kids. That receive, SSDI, and it's in the Republican and in the Project 2025 playbook to actually cut concurrent receipt and military retirement benefits, and also take away SSDI receipt from our combat wounded veterans that receive VA disability payments. Now, many veterans and their families depend on those payments in order to stay in their homes and put food on their tables. And it's egregious, and it's a betrayal of our, most community that we should be honoring most extensively. And it's a betrayal of the children of the veterans and the sons and daughters that have served America.
Indeed, this is it is the ultimate betrayal. These cuts are not about saving money, are they? They're about taking away safety nets.
They're definitely not about saving money. They're about making money. They're about making money for a select few on the shoulders of a community, like I just mentioned, that we should be honoring and providing for above all else. Those who have chosen to volunteer and serve the United States and ensure that our freedoms and our liberty are supported, and that our allies are supported, and democracy is supported all over the globe. So this is a commitment we cannot abandon, that we must uphold, and we have to take care of our veterans, not betray them. And Project 2025 and the Republican agenda in this potentially, dictatorial administration is absolutely atrocious, and it targets the most vulnerable in our communities, those who have served our country.
Indeed, it is just a widening of the gap between the privileged and the underprivileged, and aims to push marginalized groups that have already struggled, trying to push them over the edge. Definitely, these cuts are not about saving money. They're about taking away the safety nets that keep people afloat. Folks, stick with us, because after the break, we're going to talk about Project 2025's dangerous plan to privatize healthcare.
Today, we have an amazing show for you. Join myself, special guests, and celebrities.
What's going on, Ice-T? Andrew Yang.
Somebody else was hopping on.
Oh, hold on.
What's going on, battle?
As we roast GQP Jackaloons.
He may not be a real businessman, but he is one hell of a con artist. That's what it is. That's what they got indicted for. Treason and sedition.
And addresses the headlines of the day.
They must be held accountable.
Live streaming every night.
I got more time in a friggin' quarter in a friggin' combat zone than you probably got in the military.
This is Ojeda Live.
Ike, Could you tell us how Project 2025's healthcare privatization plan would impact the average American who relies on government healthcare programs?
Well, I think the agenda is clear, and it's been made clear over quite a few years now. But the agenda of Project 2025, of course, is to, gut the ACA, and that's the takeaway the healthcare Obamacare from so many Americans and seniors and veterans that depend on that for their care, and so it's the agenda is to privatize the system so that a select few can profit and make healthcare less accessible to the rest of America, an average American citizen. Um, uh, so we just absolutely can't go down this road any further down this road. Every United States American citizen deserves access to emergent and preventative health care. It's a human right.
So, doesn't privatizing healthcare mean higher costs and fewer options and less access to the care that folks need?
Absolutely, and we've seen that with prescription drug prices. And if when we gut Medicare, Medicaid, uh, we take away the United States American public's ability to collectively bargain for fair prices on our prescription medications and essential health care.
Well, exactly. But yes, so for veterans, seniors, and low-income families, this could mean a death sentence, especially for those with chronic conditions or disabilities who rely on affordable government subsidized care. What happens
Yeah,
to those folks?
Yeah, well, it means a removal of the $35, cap on insulin that's been established under, the present administration. It means a removal of Medicare, Medicaid's ability to continue to negotiate down and the cost of prescription medications and inability for us to continue to source prescription medications from safe countries like Canada, and so it essentially just takes away a free market and further monopolizes the pharmaceutical um, and the prescription medication industry, and the one that's already monopolized to such an extent that we have corporations profiteering to the tune of billions of dollars per year, while the average American can't afford or gain access to life-saving prescription medications like insulin. And so, I think we need a Congress that's going to protect the rights and access to health care for all Americans.
Absolutely, vote blue. What is going to happen to healthcare coverage for the disabled and those with pre-existing conditions?
Well, the protections for folks with pre-existing conditions were not always around. They just were stood up under the Obama administration, and before that, people with pre-existing chronic health conditions, with high blood pressure, with diabetes, with cancer, could be denied health care, could be denied coverage, and because it's not profitable for a insurance agency to cover them. Well, the collective investment in health insurance is made by all of us to make sure that every American is taken care of, and that's what we owe to each other, and that's what our values demand in a society like ours. And I think we should live up to those values.
Indeed. And we need to live up to those values to those folks with disabilities and who are facing pre-existing conditions and those groups who would face skyrocketing premiums and out-of-pocket costs. Project 2025's plan to privatize healthcare opens the door for insurance companies to deny coverage or price these individuals out of the system entirely.
That's absolutely right. You're talking about families that already live paycheck to paycheck. that depend on that assistance and depend on the existence of programs like welfare, for instance. You mentioned Project 2025's agenda to gut the social safety net, and that's true. Programs like those that my family, that my mother depended on when my parents separated when I was 2 years old. And, we depended on welfare and food stamps, and, we'd have free meals at school. And those were the boots and the straps that were provided to my mother so that she could lift herself up by her bootstraps, get back on her feet, get her degree in nursing and gain her commission in the United States Air Force. And so, gutting programs like that is a betrayal not only of our veterans, it's not only of folks who are in positions and in times of need in their families. It's a betrayal of the kids. It's a betrayal of the children of those families that depend on the social safety net that exists today, that supported me and my mother and our family when we were in that position of crisis. And I am the product of that, of welfare and of investment in a public education system and in honesty and transparency in government, which we so desperately need today. No.
Well, Ike, gosh, Ike, thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for what you shared with our viewers. Do you have any parting comments that you'd like to leave us with?
Just make sure that you understand that if anybody, any politician is telling you that your neighbors, your fellow Americans are the enemy, they're lying to you. Thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you, Ike. We've walked through the dangerous realities of Project 2025, how it's coming for veterans' benefits, social programs, and healthcare. This isn't just political rhetoric, it's a direct attack on the fundamental supports that millions of Americans rely on every day. Now more than ever, we need to resist this radical agenda. The stakes couldn't be higher. That's why I'm asking you to take action today. Head over to turnleftpac.org and sign up for our emails so that you can stay informed about how to fight back. And if you can, please make a donation. No amount is too small. Your support helps us continue this critical work of exposing Project 2025 and protecting the rights of veterans, the disabled, and every American who relies on these vital programs. We can't let them dismantle what's taken decades to build. Share this message. Tell your friends and family about what's happening, and let's stand together to protect our future. This is a fight we can't afford to lose. Project 2025 isn't just a political strategy. It's a war on veterans, seniors, and the most vulnerable, and it's time to stand up and fight back. They want to dismantle veteran services, rip apart social safety nets, and turn healthcare into a profit machine for the wealthy. This isn't conservative, it's cruelty. Go to turnleftpac.org, sign up, donate, and join the fight. And stay tuned next for Ojeda Live.